Hello everybody. Today I'm going to make up some wontons. For us, we like to have them all made up, pre-frozen, and then whenever we want our wonton soup, all we do is warm up some chicken broth with some bok choy in it and the wontons are all ready to go. So Nick usually does our grocery shopping these days and he buys wonton wrappers at Metro. They look like this. It's actually 2 complete packages of about 25 each. Personally, I'll make up all 50 just to have them made up and in the freezer, but you know, that's a lot of wontons, whatever you want. I don't suggest freezing the wontons and then thawing them out, freezing the wrappers and thawing them out and trying to make the wontons from that. It's a little more challenging because they stick, but these keep in the crisper of your fridge forever, long time anyway. So, if anybody's wondering how easy it is to make wontons, I'm going to show you. All I'm going to do is cut the package open. Now, Nick says he finds these wrappers at Metro when he shops. He finds them in the produce section right next to where all the tofu is. Am I allowed to say I'm glad he hasn't made that mistake? Bought wontons, not tofu. Am I allowed to say that? So, I'm just opening up the wonton package. Now, wrappers are super thin. Really, really thin. I try not to let them dry out too much while I'm working on them, but you know, you're fine. They're pretty dry. The basics of this recipe calls for ground turkey. I used ground turkey and ground beef. Ground pork is also good. Doesn't really matter. I find that about 1.25 pounds of ground meat works out evenly to the 2 packages of 25. So I get 50 wontons out of 1.25 pounds. I mixed up the ground meat. I tossed in I will post the recipe, but I tossed in ground ginger, cilantro, garlic aioli, salt and pepper, a little bit of sesame oil and soy sauce, and some cornstarch. Mixed it all up. That part's not rocket science. I'm pretty sure it's just like making hamburgers. So if you've ever made hamburgers, I didn't need to waste time displaying that. I have my ground meat ready. I have my wontons ready, wonton wrappers. And you really just need a tiny spoon. This is a little sugar spoon, teaspoon, whatever. It's very small. You don't need to overfill them because if you do, you won't get a seal around the outside. And when you put them in the simmering broth, they're going to blow up and come apart, and now you don't have wontons in your soup. Really thin wrapper. Just put that on your cutting board. You're going to put one of these small spoons of meat in the middle. I will show you. This is about how much I put on there, not a ton. Dip your finger in water and press all around the 4 sides of your wonton so that when you press these together, they'll seal. So I'm going to bring this over to the top. And I personally try to press out any, you know, the extra air that's in there, only because when it gets hot in the simmering, I find they seal better, and when you're simmering them, they're less likely to puff up on you. It's okay. So now I have this. See that? I wet the sides of the wontons so that they sealed. I've kind of squeezed out as much air as I can. Now I'm going to wet the 2 corners. Just the 2 corners. I'm going to fold 1 corner here and press it a bit. That'll stick. I'll fold the other corner on top of it so they look like that. And then I'm going to put them on a little bit of fluff there. I don't want that. I'm going to put them on a cookie sheet with a silicone liner. I have found that if you try and make them ahead and you freeze them together, they stick together. So nothing sticks to the silicone, frozen, hot, whatever, nothing sticks. So I take these now and I put them on my silicone sheet. When my silicone sheet is full, I throw it in the freezer just long enough that they get partially frozen, and then I dump them all in a Ziploc. This is what they're going to look like when they come out of the freezer, right? And then I just throw them in a Ziploc. On the day that I want soup, I just heat up some chicken broth. I throw in green onions. You don't have to if you're not a fan, but I chop up green onions in the broth and I put in some bok choy And then when it's simmering, you just throw your wontons from frozen into the simmering broth for 8 minutes. That's it. If you want to cook the wontons fresh, you can put them in for 5 minutes. Thanks, guys. Super easy to make wonton soup, and it's really nice to have them on hand. You can just grab a handful and throw them in some broth.